Bitcoin's chart is looking eerily similar to the 2021 top. And if history is repeating itself, you need to be prepared. And that's what I want to do today. Let's go ahead and prepare for what's to come in the Bitcoin and crypto market. If you've not yet subscribed to the channel, I want to go ahead and bring you over there underneath Rager Crypto subscribe button. Make sure that you click that pretty white button, because when you click that and you get notifications and you follow and you hit the likes, it actually does help more people see the information and the content. I really appreciate your support, because each and every day I'm going to bring you updated Bitcoin and crypto news, actionable insights that you can use. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel regardless of where you live in the world. I'm happy to have you in the community. So Bitcoin overall, right now, we want to talk about some similarities to 2021 because it is looking quite similar. In the news, the PPI came back today for inflation numbers, and it was down. Just like yesterday, the CPI was down as well. It actually hit 2.8%, and PPI was 3.3%. The actual was 3.2%. Inflation is coming down, yet prices continue to go down as well. The SPX, the stock index, is also down. Why is this happening? And again, we talked about this. If you didn't watch yesterday's video, you can go ahead and click it in the They Control Price. I want you to take a look at that if you've not yet watched. Make sure that you understand who I'm talking about as far as controlling price, the Federal Reserve. What's going on with that? Make sure to click that if you haven't watched. Prices are going down, even though inflation's going down. The stock index is going down. Bitcoin is pulling back. And a lot of that has to do with the uncertainties of policy that's going on in the world right now. The tariffs. There was even a new tariff, apparently, to Europe for wine, like a massive percentage increase. So just be aware that a lot of things are going on with uncertainty in the market. It tends to pull. The market doesn't like uncertainty. People risk off, and for good reason. So now let's take a look. Back in 2021, be prepared for what's potentially to come in April. What happened there was pure euphoria because Coinbase, the largest crypto exchange, had its IPO. It was all in the news. Bitcoin was going to 100,000, they said. After that, we had a slight altcoin rally for a couple of months, but Bitcoin overall ended up tanking around 50%. It went from 65K down to around $29,000, okay? 55% decrease in price. But watch what happened. If you go on the weekly chart, higher time frames are always pretty helpful, but price wicked down past the orange line, which is a 50 EMA on the weekly, and it bounced from there. It eventually wicked down a couple of times, and it really only closed below that once, and that was in the week of July. After that, we had a nice uptrend to new highs following the next few months. I think that we're seeing a similar pattern happen in Bitcoin with a similar time frame. In the video here in a few minutes, I'll tell you why I think the pattern's similar as far as the next uptrend and when that's going to happen. So make sure that you keep watching for that. We did see that 50-week EMA act as a magnet for price for Bitcoin, right? After that 50% drop, which is quite substantial in an uptrend bull market. Understanding that if you zoom in to 2025, we saw similarities because the peak top, as far as the local top, was in late January. A lot of stuff in the news about Bitcoin, ETFs. There were some massive meme coins rallying like crazy, sucking liquidity from other altcoins. Crypto was in the news, just like back in April of 2021. Since then, we've pulled back around 30%. And so that is not as substantial as 2021, but you also have to understand, as more adoption has come into play in the crypto and for the Bitcoin market, you're likely to have less volatility longer term as banks and funds accumulate Bitcoin. And we're going to continue to see that. So higher scarcity, less volatility, I think overall, Bottom line, we're not going to hit a 50% pullback. If we do hit below $70,000, that's probably trouble. If you hit below this green zone here that I have between 73 to around 68 to 69,000, if you actually start breaking below that on the daily and weekly, not a good thing. I don't want to be down there very long at all. But what you're noticing, as we talked about earlier, what happened, right? Price wick down below the 50 EMA, bounced off that as a magnet, stuck to that. And look what happened here. Price a couple of weeks ago bounced right before it hit down to the 50 EMA, went up, came back down, now is bouncing off the 50 EMA, similar as it did back in 2021. I'm not saying this is the actual bottom. I'm just saying that it could go lower than 77K, 76K, but I don't think it's going lower than 70,000. I expect price to actually range around this level right here. As time goes, we know that as far as weekly moving averages tend to lag, but the moving average may fluctuate up or down a little bit. I think we stay in this 85 to 75,000 area for the next couple of months. Bottom line, we had a weekly breakdown as far as a weekly close that broke the range, similar back in 2021. This is the sweet spot overall. What a lot of people are saying is that Bitcoin dominance is up. Bitcoin dominance is what happens when you have a scared environment in the crypto market. People tend to go to cash. They go to Bitcoin, which is more of a safe haven long-term investment. They get out of those high-risk altcoin investments and trades. They get into Bitcoin. And so the dominance, the percentage of what Bitcoin makes up the total market cap of crypto continues to go up. Now, we've seen it bounce quite a bit in high-risk, fearful markets. Back in 2021, after there was a local top in Bitcoin in April, ETH and altcoins rallied for a couple of months. That's when you saw Bitcoin dominance just crash, right? But after the market tanked, people ran into Bitcoin and Bitcoin dominance rose 23%. That local top, similar to what we had in 2021, was at around 56% dominance in Bitcoin. So far, it's only up around 8 to 10%. It's spiked up higher than that, but there's a lot of room to go up for Bitcoin dominance. I even have this marked, the previous highs of around 70%. I'm saying don't be shocked over the next 2 months if Bitcoin dominance goes as high as 70%. People continuing to get into Bitcoin, continuing to risk off in altcoins. I can tell you exactly why that is, why I don't necessarily think altcoins are a great buy at the moment, because the market's showing its hand. Consumers are showing their hand. Retail investors are showing their hand. As far as ETH goes, continues to crash. ETH BTC is the lowest that it's been. ETH performing against Bitcoin is the lowest that it's been since 2020. It's going to eventually bounce and bounce hard, and ETH is going to be a great trade to get into. But point being, at the moment, it doesn't look good. With the SEC also postponing altcoin ETFs, that's not good for altcoins. The demand isn't there for altcoins at the moment. Some substantial meme coins just got added to Robinhood. For those of you who like meme coins, maybe you don't, totally fine. I'm just showing you that the demand for altcoins, specifically meme coins, is low right now. If you see them as a long-term trade that they're going to bounce, you can get into those. Point being is that just late last year, if any token, meme coin or whatever, got listed on Robinhood, you would see substantial pumps in price in those altcoins. All three of these tokens have only pumped around 15 to 20%. Some of them already retraced their initial candle. What this shows is a lack of demand. Even when a coin gets listed on Robinhood, typically that would be in the right market conditions, would send that 2, 3, 4x, depending. Maybe not 4x, 2, 3x, yes. Because a lot of these already had pretty large market caps, but only 15 to 20% pumps on these. The demand is low right now for meme coins, for altcoins. You need to understand that. Popcat is still down 90% from its all-time high, even after a listing on Robinhood. So with that said, I just want to show you that dominance continues to go up for Bitcoin, and altcoins, the demand for altcoins continues to go down. What I want to look at for a macro catalyst for Bitcoin, as I talked about, I'm thinking that it's going to be a lot similar time frame as 2021, the same pattern around the 50 EMA, price chopping around this level, not really getting much below that, maybe to 70K. Within 8 to 10 weeks, we saw that price hit a bottom and rallied for Bitcoin. Now, if that's the case, what we're seeing right now is late April, early May as the bottom, or perhaps the start of an uptrend for Bitcoin. As we talked about yesterday and earlier this week, we talked about the Federal Reserve cutting rates and that being a catalyst for not only stocks, but for crypto and Bitcoin as well. Next week, the Federal Reserve will talk about interest rates and what their plans are. Chairman Powell has already said they're not going to cut rates. They're going to hold their current plan. So what's being estimated from some people, the first rate cuts are going to come, but they're not going to come until June FOMC. So if that's the case, what tends to happen with price is that you see it be front run. That's going to be priced in because it's expected to happen in June. Therefore, in late April, likely in May, we're going to see the price chop sideways until then and then slowly trend back up for both stocks and for the crypto and Bitcoin market. So that's what I think is going to happen. And that plays out perfectly as we saw last cycle. You could say mid-cycle cool down, where everything pulls back, takes a break, accumulation happens, and then prices go back up weeks to months later. The same time period as we saw in 2021, similar to that bottom that we saw right here before it went up. We're seeing the similar here and then potentially back up the second half of the year in 2025 for Bitcoins. I am hopeful and I do think that come in late April, early May is the start of a new uptrend for Bitcoin. And that's what I'm looking at. So yes, I do think that right now is a good time to accumulate Bitcoin over the next 2 months. This may be the lowest that you see Bitcoin in the 70Ks ever in the next couple of years. If Bitcoin continues to rally to new highs, 110, 120, 130, or even higher, as forecasted with this accumulation of more and more Bitcoin from banks, from funds, from companies, we can foresee that Bitcoin price goes much higher in the cycle. So a lot of comparable things happening with Bitcoin as far as the price action. And I do think that we see dominance continue to go higher. Altcoins can continue to bleed out a little bit. And for the stock market also to go sideways over the next month or two. The next steps is to next week, we have FOMC to see what happens with the Fed and the rate cuts. And based off that, we can determine perhaps short-term price action for Bitcoin and crypto as it goes into April. Probably some more chop up and down, but really, you never want to invest more than what you can afford to lose. If you have cash on the side and you want to get in Bitcoin and you have the same mind frame as myself, then the next couple of months is going to be key levels, price levels to accumulate Bitcoin, whether it's a trade or whether it's an investment for the coming year to 2 years. I do think the second half of the year is going to be good for Bitcoin. We want to see rate cuts from the Fed and see if tariffs and other policy changes settle down a little. The market adjusts to that, get used to it, and then rally from there. Okay. We have seen quite a bit of pullback, 30% for Bitcoin. I don't think we get much lower than this, but do expect chop in the short to mid frame. Don't let that shake you out, as markets tend to go sideways quite a bit more than they go up or down. Expect that chop up and down over the next 2 months. But as we prepare for that, if you're prepared for that, I think you're going to reap the rewards here in the second half of the year, even in Q3. So with that said, keep an eye on the market. Bitcoin looking okay right here, even though we're having a pullback because of the uncertainty with policy. Inflation in general is going down. That is a positive overall for the market and for the economy. And because of that, I do think we foresee the Federal Reserve cut rates by June, and the stock market and Bitcoin and crypto react in a positive manner, with all the markets heading up for a solid Q3, Q4 in 2025. But that's it for me today. You guys, if you've not yet subscribed to the channel, make sure that you do that right there on the white button. Hit subscribe. And if you have not yet commented, make sure that you do that, because I do have Bitcoin giveaways each and every week for those people who do comment and subscribe to the channel. All right, guys. So with that said, you're watching Rager Crypto. Trade safe and have a great day.